Folks, the Clippers are trying to do it again. They saw our 2019 championship run and they said, we want all of their players. And now, the player that they think, Clippers fans think that they can land is Pascal Siakam. So I'm going to break down Clippers Nation article that breaks down the absurdity of a potential Pascal Siakam to the LA Clippers trade that they broke down. Additionally, Nick Nurse gave us another nugget from his time in Hungary and in a coaching clinic broke down how the Toronto Raptors are really using every possible angle to get wins in the modern NBA. So we have all that and a whole lot more to break down in this video. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down the latest Toronto Raptors news. And folks, we are 10 subscribers away. I'm recording this in the afternoon. Maybe by the time the video's up, we'll be hit our milestone, but we're about 10 subscribers away from that 25,000 subscriber milestone. So I appreciate everyone that's been hitting the button recently. You guys have been absolutely killing it. And if you're not subscribed, definitely hit that sub button if you want the latest Raptors coverage. But as I said in the last video, we got to earn that sub and react to some wild Raptors news. And this one is some absurdity. This one is some nonsense that we got to dive into. It's the LA Clippers thinking that they can make a trade for Pascal Siakam. And the first thing I'm saying is it's not going to happen. This isn't a rumor. It's not Woj or anything coming out now. It's just Clippers fans going on with the nonsense that they've really been going on with for the past 4 or 5 seasons since they sent their coaches up and, trying to recruit our guys. But this is coming from Clippers Nation. Here's the headline saying that trade candidate series. The Clippers nab another Toronto star. Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka, Norman Powell, and now Pascal Siakam. The Clippers' northern pipeline could continue. So it's an article coming from Justin Russo and SB Nation, Clippers Nation, and all that sort of stuff. And man, there is some wild takes, some wild nonsense coming in this one. Essentially, they bring up a possible consideration the Toronto Raptors have to navigate in terms of Pascal Siakam's future. And this is completely legitimate. The Toronto Raptors currently, with Pascal Siakam having made an All-NBA team this previous year, now have the potential possibility, if Siakam is to make an All-NBA team this upcoming season or in the year following, he could be eligible for one of those Supermax extensions. Now, we've seen how Supermaxes such as Russell Westbrook, John Wall, Bradley Beal have really crippled a franchise's ability to navigate and make moves and, flexibility for the future. And where Pascal Siakam, he's not on the level of a Giannis or a Jokic or an MVP caliber player, at least just yet. There could be some hesitation, some reservations to give him a Supermax contract. And, that could potentially taint the relationship between Siakam and the front office and all that sort of stuff. And I will say, that's a legitimate consideration because I definitely agree. It's that Pascal Siakam deserves a max contract. He deserves to be paid like an all-star. His current contract is a great deal for him. At this point, averaging 23 points per game, 7-8 rebounds and 5 assists. One of the most efficient scorers, in the paint around the rim, and is only going to improve. We've been discussing his jump shot over this entire offseason. I mean, he's dropping spicy P-lays of the day, left, right, and center. So there's no real need for the Raptors to, there's no hope that he leaves or to not give him a max contract. But, when a contract could potentially be paying you upwards of $50-60 million per year. I know it's what Damian Lillard's gotten, and I think he's more tenured. It deals with how many years he's been in the league and all that sort of stuff. That could be a bit sketchy, paying anyone on your team that's not an MVP caliber guy. So we'll deal with that when it comes. But the Clippers essentially think that, okay, the Raptors might not want to give Pascal Siakam a Supermax contract extension 2 years from now. 2 years away. And that they'd want to make some moves. They want to deal him away to a franchise that really treats their Raptors players better, right? Because obviously Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka have had much more success down there with the LA Clippers than they have with the Toronto Raptors, of course, right? So Clippers fans think that their northern pipeline will keep sending players down, right? But and they think they have the trade assets, right? They've been cooking up some trade machines, right? They're breaking out the trade scenarios, and they say, okay, the Clippers have some nice assets to potentially acquire Pascal Siakam. Now, who are these assets that the Clippers speak of, that the Clippers Nation thinks that the Toronto Raptors would accept in return for a Pascal Siakam? Well, let's take a look, a little outtake from the article. The Clippers do possess trade assets that could interest a team like the Raptors, such as promising young players like Terrence Mann and Brandon Boston Jr., as well as a 2028 first-round pick, and even the right to swap in 2029. My goodness, folks, doesn't that just get you excited? Doesn't trading an all-NBA caliber player, right, for Terrence Mann and Boston Jr., I don't even know his name. Doesn't that just get you elated? Doesn't that just open your eyes and say, ooh, let's make that deal. Let's shake that up. Those are some assets I really want back for Pascal Siakam, because even if we did decide that we didn't want to give him a supermax and things are futile, Siakam's fighting front office folks, we definitely couldn't get more on the open market than Terrence Mann and Brandon Boston Jr. and potentially a Marcus Morris or something like that, who will be 40 years old by the time this deal could potentially go down, right? That's the type of deal that the Toronto Raptors would make for Pascal Siakam, of course, right? Those are what we want to see happen. Like, who writes these things? Who looks at the NBA and says, okay, the Raptors are, obviously teams are going to be biased towards their own players. I completely get it and all that sort of stuff. But the thing below average role players. I know Terrence Mann had a good playoffs, a couple years ago where he was cooking up Donovan Mitchell, and a lot of Raptors fans have brought up Donovan Mitchell's defense in that playoff series as a reason why we shouldn't go after him in a trade. But are we really looking at lower tier role players in return for a guy that is legitimately on his way, a rising star, a star, all-star, all-NBA level caliber player? No. In the middle of his prime? No. Get out of here. Get out of here with that nonsense, LA. Not dealing with any more of your shenanigans, trying to scout our players and stuff. Get your team right. Right, you got Norman Powell on a steal of a contract. It had to go through Portland and all that sort of stuff. But y'all can't even get out I guess they got to the conference finals. But with all that star power, with all that luxury tax, you can't even make it where we made it with Kawhi Leonard. So Clippers fans, keep holding L's. Stop fooling around with this nonsense. But the next thing we're discussing, the next thing we're talking about in this video is the graphic doesn't want to appear, but how Nick Nurse is out here trying to he's given some quotes from the Hungarian press, and this was in a coaching clinic he made over there, essentially breaking down how the Toronto Raptors really do be working every angle to get the wins. And this involves the referees. Now, Nick Nurse is notoriously a guy that likes to get on the referees, likes to get a little heated when it comes to calls. Obviously, he's protecting his players and all that sort of stuff. That's what you want to see out of a coach of the year level coach, an NBA championship level coach. So Nick Nurse really be working it, but it's not just Nurse who is trying to get on the good side, or at least get the refs to be swayed mentally in favor of the Toronto Raptors. And Nick Nurse is out here writing, and it's people in the organization essentially writing on a board, scouting reports for referees. And is it, there's the number of games refed, how experienced they are and all that sort of stuff, but somehow they're also getting what the favorite movies of referees are, what you can really make for small talk with referees to get on their good side. And some people might say, what are the Raptors doing with this? This is absolute nonsense. But as someone that has refereed a couple games in my life, right? I used to coach a bunch of basketball, and then, sometimes you're forced in the way of reffing, and I myself was a guy that used to go at the referees when I was younger, growing up, playing some basketball here in Newfoundland. And it wasn't until the day I reffed my first game, when I was like 14, 15 years old, that I realized, man, if someone's complaining, if someone's yelling at you the entire time, I'm just trying to give them bad calls. And we see this, no matter how, unbiased refereeing seems, or the NBA tries to push reffing to be, it's literally impossible. It's psychologically impossible to be completely unswayed by how you perceive a player. And if you're not liking a guy, you're not getting calls. Look at Scott Foster and Chris Paul, and it can have a serious impact on the game. So the Raptors are out here figuring out ways to make small talk with referees in order to get on their good side, in order to be friendly with them, in order to look at them as more human beings. So, man, that's honestly 10 out of 10 IQ play, because as I said, I reffed a few games myself, and it's a legitimate thing. If you don't like the player that you're reffing against, and obviously I'm not a trained professional NBA referee, I'm bad at it, I'm objectively a horrible referee, but even when I'm trying to be unbiased, it's just like, okay, kid's complaining, I'm not giving him that call. It's not gonna happen. I'll be throwing out tees, I'll be throwing out all that sort of stuff. So the Raptors are out here pulling these these cards, which I love to see. I love to see the Toronto Raptors doing that. But the next thing we're discussing, the next thing we're breaking down, and the graphics, I think I loaded them up too late. So I'm just going to have to go off of memory here right now, or yeah, the structure of the vids. But Fred VanVleet we had a little injury update for Fred VanVleet. And this is last season, Fred VanVleet struggled down the stretch of the year. People were bagging on our guy, Fred VanVleet. Did he deserve his all-star appearance? Right? He's washed defensively. He's not doing what he did to Curry in the finals and all that sort of stuff. Fred VanVleet was dealing with serious knee issues last year. The bone bruises that he took time off for 2 points. 2 points over the second half of last season, and it just really didn't get better. And then we saw him, the knee ended up affecting his hip, his hamstring, and all that sort of stuff, where he just essentially couldn't play the second half of our playoff series against the Philadelphia 76ers. So now we're seeing Fred VanVleet coming into rehab. He posted a couple pictures, one post, a few pictures of him rehabbing out there, rehabbing the knee and all that sort of stuff. And he said, "Week 1, #rehab." And this had me a little bit interested. It had me a little bit, because you figure right after the season, if you're dealing with an injury, you want to get that out of the way, right? Dive straight back into rehab so you're fully able to go for the second half of the off season when you get closer to training camp and all that sort of stuff. But the week 1 comment had me a little bit looked into it, but then looking at comments, looking at what people are saying, looking at people, Fred VanVleet, these are the type of injuries that you just want to rest. And Fred VanVleet took advantage of it following the end of this year's playoffs. He's been resting. Obviously, I'm sure he's been properly rehabbing, working out, not just completely not touching a basketball or not working out over the summer, but now he's really gearing up for this regular season. So we don't have to hopefully see any serious injuries from Fred VanVleet. And obviously, healthy Fred VanVleet was pretty ridiculous last season, right? Last year, before the All-Star break, the guy was averaging like 22 points per game, close to 8 assists, right? Being our really number one option while Pascal Siakam was coming back into form after the shoulder surgery he had over last summer. So Fred VanVleet coming back, and hopefully now with either Malachi Flynn, Jeff Doughton, Delano Banton, or even Scotty Barnes playing more point guard, can get a little bit more rest over the course of the season so we can see prime Fred VanVleet, especially for playoff time next year. So happy he's rehabbing, happy he's getting back into form, and by all indications, he should be good for training camp and the regular season. And see if the last button, yeah, it's glitching. It's glitching, folks. The last video edit there. But the final thing we're discussing is how the Raptors' preseason schedule has been revealed. It's been released, and pull it up here on the screen right now. And we got a couple of interesting ones. We got the Jazz, the Celtics, the Rockets, the Bulls. Games in Edmonton as well as Montreal starting October 2nd, which is only a couple months away now, folks. Obviously, the offseason always feels a little bit long. And, the Raptors, they're in a point now where we're really on the come up in terms of teams. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see some Raptors action. They'll play in Edmonton October 2nd. I lived in Montreal there for a while. Might have to go back to catch one of these games. Who are they playing in Montreal? Who are they playing? The Celtics, right? So that should be a good one there. So obviously there's Raptors fans all over Canada, all over the States, all over everywhere. But if you're in Edmonton, Montreal, obviously Toronto, they'll get a game in Toronto too for the preseason. You got an opportunity to just walk down the street and check them out. When they played in Montreal, the Kawhi year 2019, I got to check that out. So, you love to see it. You love to see Raptors basketball coming back soon. But you guys are the best for making this far. Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, the Twitter, all that cool stuff. Anyways, as I said, we're almost on that road. We're almost there. We're almost there, that 25,000 milestone. I got the live count going. Got 2 subs while I've been recording this vid, so we're 8 away. Let's see if we can get that mark. I'm probably going to schedule this for a little bit later anyways, because I'm letting the previous video breathe, the one with Scotty Barnes working out at Rico Hines. But I appreciate everyone that's going on. I'll refrain from using the balloons till we actually hit that milestone. But as I said, I appreciate all you guys always. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.